All right, welcome to the good stuff. It is the big episode 41. We are professional. We're sat at a table
inside
because it is too hot to be outside today.
40 degrees Celsius.
Although obviously we're actually at the beach with a fire, so it can't be that hot. It's total fireban day, so this is highly irresponsible. Sorry about that. Don't set fires at the beach.
Well, our 8-bit characters are immune to heat, so it's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. Although, why do they wear shorts then? Because they look cool.
They're also immune to cold. So.
Yeah.
Well, we're back. 41. That's good. There's no crisis at 41. It's only at 40. That's what we determined last week.
Okay, that's good.
So
I think it's between the ages of 37 and 42 is prime midlife crisis. So you still.
Why do you have to hit me with that?
Well, like it just is what it is.
Well, what do we want to get into today? Yeah, I can actually start with something because I'm following AI news a lot less.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just find like I'm so happy and comfortable with the tools I have available to me that unlock so much that I'm almost not looking for the next new thing at the moment.
Okay.
I'm sure something will come along and it will be like, a significant improvement on what we have. But I'm almost thinking like, unless it's like an order of magnitude, it's just going to be out of the news cycle so quickly.
Interesting.
Like I'm just not noticing this stuff as much as I was like 3-4 months ago. I'm just like straight into the work every day, not even trying to do the research on new tools and test them all. I think on an earlier episode, I might have talked about this. I was very keen to just like try all of these new tools that come out. And then I think someone was telling us about like the agent ID that Google's released as well. I can't remember. I think it's like a VS Code fork.
And I was just like, I'm just not Google interested. Do something, I'm like, it's going to be so hard to even just fucking log into this thing or like get an API for it. Because I know how bad they are at that. That I'm like, I can't be bothered. Like I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with that crap. I'll just build it.
Yeah.
I'll build my own version.
I can't remember. Like it was definitely a friend of the pod who mentioned it to us.
Maybe Gav.
Might have been Gav.
I feel like Gav would say something like that.
And I was like,
Gav, friend of the pod, shout out friend of the pod.
He's been on the pods. Can't remember what episode it was, but he's been on the pod
31.
No,
that's
fair guess.
It wasn't that earlier.
But yeah, a bit without even, I hadn't even heard about it. My first guess was like, it's got to be like a VS Code fork, and I'm just not interested. I don't know. I feel like I can just do what I need to do with Claude Code, and that's such a big unlock for me that unless it, like whatever gets released now, it needs to be such a massive upgrade on everything we've got available to us that, I almost...
So I found that like doing some of the like encryption workflows inside marginal gains, because you just got to check that stuff is actually happening the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Like I found like just going back into VS Code has been useful for that. So I actually like the changes are all getting back to Claude, but like when I'm planning stuff out, like sometimes I just want to see the code.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing is my code is like it's very commented, which I quite enjoy. So you can get to the right parts pretty quick, and you get that visceral reaction of like, oh, this file is way too fucking big. Like, right, go and clean this up for me. But it's been useful for that, and then just checking like databases and stuff, and just reading through and just going like, this is all just nonsense. I can't see anything. So it's been like some of that sort of stuff. I'm like, it's too abstract to just do it.
I still use Cursor
with the agent, but like I like to look at it. In that space.
I will generally use Cursor for this as well.
Yeah, okay.
So I just like the interface, so I will go and have that open as well. So that's part of the toolkit for sure. But I haven't seen anything new that I'm really desperate to try.
I don't know of any specific products, but there was, I think Justin Moon, friend of the pod, from the Human Rights Foundation. He runs some of their AI stuff, but he was... he'd been posting a few things. I think he's hearing like out in the States where every now and again he'll post like a little like agent orchestrator workflow, and I think he made a point. It's like, there's gonna be a lot more of this stuff recently, and I dipped my toe into Twitter for the first time in a couple of months the other day, and there was like it's interesting. I feel like when I go away for a long time and come back, it actually shows me something that I might want to see. And so there was a lot of stuff there where people have built these like orchestration components around the agents, and I was like, oh, interesting, because that's like a lot of what is in Wingman has now become quite common, and a lot of like I can see people experimenting with the same stuff that we're starting to experiment in marginal gains and the integration with Wingman. It's like, it's and not in like a kind of like, oh, it's not worth it, or because like I see the same thing when I try and like introduce Wingman into somebody else's workflow. Sometimes I'll be like, no, I already have like a mental thing that I'm going to do here, so it's I can't use yours. I need to use mine. Like if they're fresh, it's easier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I looked at some of theirs and I was like, oh, it's interesting. We're all thinking the same way. Like it's and you could imagine that everyone's got the same problem that you've got, right? Like where we talked about this in the speedrun course yesterday, or maybe it was with somebody beforehand. But it's that moment where you go, I'm moving too quick. Hang on a sec. Do you want to
Can we pause it
for a minute? I don't think we can. I'll just tell you.
We've got a short delay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a lo-fi podcast if every now and again somebody didn't come to your door.
Well, you need that.
About the latest issues with the sprinklers.
There you go.
Otherwise, we're going to end up with 2 files, and I'm not prepared to deal with 2 files and editing them.
Nah, you know. One. You can clip it out, yeah.
Well, no, I'm not going to clip it out. I'm just going to leave it in. Surely.
It is lo-fi.
I think the listeners like it when the listeners. I think they like it when there's a real world interaction.
Yeah.
All right. So
where were you? I can't remember.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah. So everybody experimenting with the same things currently, and so the big trend that I'm seeing at the moment is it's kind of like everyone's trying to figure out like, well, how do you keep track of the work?
Yeah.
I think we had a gut feel that this was going to be a problem early doors, but we just didn't like have enough almost like experience to deal with it at that point. And then what I find is that it's actually quite a nice, pleasurable experience in a way, just working directly with an agent, because you get into this like flow state that's very like rewarding. But the only problem with that is that like outside of that state, it's kind of hard to know what was happening. Like it's like the way I've experienced is that I could sit down and I could like just disappear in fixing something and like always just moving things forward in this gradual way where I'm like, all right, this next, solve that, test that, done. Right, test this one, next, now I'm going to go over here. And then sometimes you can just lose sight of the broader picture. And so we've often talked about that sort of Hemingway framework of like, you know, you've got to plan sober, edit drunk, or code drunk. Used to do so. Write sober, edit drunk. No, other way around. Write drunk, edit sober.
Yes.
That's the one. And I think it's like I don't have a tool or a systemized version of the plan. It's something that becomes like, all right, well, I'll work with some agents in a different system, or I'll write stuff down on a whiteboard. But everything's very manual in that space. Whereas I feel like the agents are getting to the point where it's like, all right, I can actually probably loose you on slightly larger tasks than I used to.
Yeah.
I could do more things in parallel, and like a lot of that automation is now in place. But then it's the bottleneck now becomes I get confused now with the number of things that I'm doing in parallel at any one point in time. So it's like, all right, I need like what's the thing or the system that I use that's like one step above that allows me to go, all right, I'm sober now. Let's do this. And I do my planning. And then when I want to dip in and see what the agent's doing, I know that's all there. That's all in Wingman. I know how to do it, and it's nice enough to do. But now how do I zoom out? And so I think we talked about like moving that more into the sort of task management space inside marginal gains. I think that's going to be quite a big unlock. And we have that plus... Do you want to use the name for the boards or not, or is that...
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, for Optikon?
Optikon,
yeah. So for Optikon...
Or Canvas.
Once we have the canvas...
Little Miro...
Oh, you've got a few different ideas.
No, well, it is a canvas. It's an infinite canvas, right? So that is the product. It's like a Miro visual management board. And very closely inspired by Miro, actually.
Well, yeah,
like,
I mean, like all the boards look like boards, right?
That's
There's so many things you can do on them, but it's...
I find Excalidraw though, like it has like its own like quite unique aesthetic. Maybe it's just like
I like the aesthetic.
Yeah, it's a bit rough,
to be honest.
It's a bit rough around the edges, whereas Miro is quite polished. And it occurred to me afterwards that I quite like Excalidraw as well, the aesthetic, but it's
I think
too
there's
late.
a library you can use to just change the shapes.
Yeah, probably.
That'll do it slightly more freehand.
Yeah.
But it is. I think it has that element where if something looks a little bit incomplete, you look at it more like a plan that can change, whereas, or you won't keep fiddling with it to try and make it look perfect, because it's fine. It's never going to look perfect. It always looks a bit sketched, which helps with that sort of creative part of the process, I find. But yeah, so I think like that, like Optikon coming in with the task boards, and then the integrations with the Wingman Night Watchman, that I've got, which is going to be the agent that looks after the agents. Then I actually reckon like that's going to be a pretty sweet process at that point, because even if I'm in the writing drunk period of like, all right, I'm in there, I'm at the coal face with the agents, like prompting it through the next things we're going to build, there's something else keeping track of everything. Yeah. So that when I zoom out, so when like, you know, the wife comes in and says like, oh, did you get anything done today? I'm like, yes, I did these things that are all on the right hand side of the board. It's all been nicely tracked for me versus like me going, yeah, everything's in slightly better state than it was, but I don't know what I did. Like, it's just, I was in a fugue state for a couple of hours, and now everything works.
It is interesting, because like I'll do this quite manually at times, and I'll ask the agent for a summary, especially if I'm about to change direction, go off somewhere. I'm just like, just give me a summary of all of the things we've done.
It's very diligent of you.
Yeah,
I don't have that control.
I think we spoke about this last week, right? Like, I'm always looking for ways to just insert that operating discipline into how I'm working.
Discipline, that's the word.
Yeah. But you're right. I think being able to then...
That's a good product name.
Discipline?
Yeah, discipline.
I mean, it doesn't apply to
well,
every
it's
part
a different sort of product as well, right? All right, we're going into underwear sales. Yeah. We won't tell you much more about it. It's like
teaser.
Thinking studs. Yeah. Thinking spikes. Oh dear.
God, yeah, we can't call that marginal gains.
Marginal returns. Marginal benefits.
Marginal benefits, that's it. But yeah, it's a nicer framework to actually achieve all of this stuff, to have the board visually where you're planning everything out, and then have Wingman being able to see that as well. Yeah. Take that to a task, link it to specific, well, I actually like the idea of it, just that board living with the summary task, which is like a parent ticket that we have on our Kanban. And then there are a bunch of subtasks that sit under that. And I think those specific parts linking to like a particular screen on that infinite canvas would be quite useful.
Yes.
Because then the agent
we
has
were talking about maybe every task being its own board, but the summary. But I introduced summary tasks like over the weekend because I wanted them to track something that I was doing. Like, and they're fantastic because they've got a little Wordle display on it, and I'm like, that works. That's such a nice flourish. It makes it so easy
it's
to
like almost like having the little like progress tracker as well. It's like you see these things turn green, and it's like, oh, that's quite nice. Like I'm getting there. But I think that makes way more sense, because I was listening back to our pod last week where we were talking about boards. Like every task has a board, and I was like, well, that could be a little bit over elaborate. But I think if you've got the summary, I
wouldn't restrict it in the way that I think you could like just click through to the board on a task, but I would imagine using it at the higher level, because usually the board is for all the stuff that doesn't fit. If you know what I mean, like it's all the like subjective context that I want to draw about and think about with this task, but it's not necessarily the detail. Well, like if it's detail, I can just stick it in a document.
My thinking was, if the task is sufficiently complex and detailed, chances are it'll be apparent, and you're going to have a bunch of subtasks that will branch off from it. Yeah. If the task is just a standalone single task that exists, the likelihood of it needing a board is probably quite remote. But yeah, you're right. You still want the option, but I think it seems to fit nicely by accident now with the parent, with the summary tasks. I think that makes a lot more sense. Yeah. So that'd be good. Yeah. And then like all of these tools are just more native ways of working. Like everyone is used to working like this inside a business. the work lives in these little spaces.
Well, and like one thing we were just talking about in the car on the way back here after the meeting was like there's something about the number of systems that exist in the world that are just can't be integrated to each other because they're just like they're all built by their own company, and like what's the chance you choose two different things that do two different things in your business, and then they just don't talk natively, and you like and they just won't. You kind of can't make them because that company has many clients of which you're just one, so why would they pivot? And in the same way we've said before, like Miro has, Miro and Trello are two different things that can be useful. Like I like Kanban boards, I like whiteboards.
Yep.
Miro has whiteboards inside Miro on the whiteboard because the whiteboard is the thing that Miro is all about. And like Trello doesn't really have whiteboards, but like the Kanban board in Miro is not good. It's not a good experience. So it's like it's kind of wrong in all the different places, but then every summary task having a board makes infinite sense.
That's it. Yeah.
But Miro isn't going to subject itself to being like the lower version of Trello. It's just there for the extra bits. It's like no, put everything in us.
Yeah.
But then that just becomes unwieldy. So like the philosophical differences just don't work when they're separate companies. It's like, all right, well, I'll just have that exactly, and then I'll just cancel 2 subscriptions. So
well, exactly. But also inside the business, what you're doing is like you manually need to stitch those things together, and that translates into admin work. And that's where like more people's time tends to flow away from stuff that's productive and more to just administrative work.
They're just not supposed to talk together.
Exactly. Yeah.
One thing that it just popped into my mind as we were driving back. I didn't vocalize it at the time, but I was like, maybe, like, because I've just like in building marginal gains, I built a Nostr native app that doesn't use relays. It actually does use like a bunch of Nostr kinds under the hood for when we create the messages and stuff, because it makes it, because then I can just use all the tools that exist for verification. But I was like, well, what's the point in putting in a relay if it's not going to get broadcast publicly? And I was like, but you know what? Like, there's something here where you go, well, if everything is just a message on a relay and is a kind, then the import, export, display type things are all done for me for any data.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe everything should just be like that. Maybe you should build business apps like that where, it assumes relay, and relays in this case are just local to the application.
Yeah.
So, it's all your own internal data. It's all encrypted as well, because that becomes natively with Nostr, because now everyone's got a key. And then we just store everything in relays, because then if I assume that data structure, then everything is just native tools out of the box to build with it. And I can just borrow all the stuff that people that are better at me building use, and I can just piece it all together. And I was like, huh. But then, like, the integration is that, like, well, everything's on relays, and there's, like, you could have relay in every office inside the company, and they all just sync their data together. And they use neg entropy sync across them. Everyone's got the same data source. It's all local. Nothing's outside. Everything just natively kind of works. You've got instant backups. I was like, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. And I could sort of hear Gigi, like, friend of the pod, Gigi, just kind of rejoice, because I've heard him make this argument to me.
Yeah. And
it didn't intuit in the same way. I was like, maybe he's right. Yeah. He often is, so it's a shame, because it'd be better if he's wrong. But
yeah.
But I was like, that might make more sense.
Friend of the pod, Gigi, go and revisit that episode as well.
I might have to go back to Madeira. Sorry.
Yeah. That's it.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
There's only one way to work this out.
Do another pod with Gigi. Yeah.
Well, no, I was thinking I should move back there for a couple of months.
Well, that would work as well.
I mean, winter, it's
in Perth,
sunny and 15
or in
degrees.
Madeira. Oh, Madeira, yeah. Okay.
Like, but it's better in Madeira.
Yeah, of course.
It's
nice. I was like, what? Yeah. No, very good. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it could be wrong. Like, it's not obvious to me that relays are the best way to do everything. But there is something about if the data is on relays, you can, its purpose is just to go get it.
Yeah.
And then you just make the client aspect. But the client could also just be a proxy to then another app that uses it. But why not store, if everything is events?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty useful. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things I can feel it like just needling in my mind, and I'm like, I will dwell on this. How do you
like? Yeah, the thing that like always like not bugs me about this is like how do you speak to this to like traditional developers and just businesses who are like not across all this stuff. Because you know what I mean? Like,
I'm wondering why I'm saying it on a podcast, Frank.
Well,
but it was in my head.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
And podcast is basically us in stream of consciousness mode anyway, so that's fine.
True.
But you know what I mean? Like, there are a lot of benefits here, and pretty much all businesses are like, how do we, try and own our own data, and how do we manage privacy concerns, and like all of those kinds of things, and yet they still just go and revert to solutions that include big tech. It's at every turn.
It's like they always go like, I tell you what we'll do, we'll hope. It's like,
well, we'll draft a policy, but then we're still going to have Microsoft and OpenAI. And
it's like having a law that says like, please don't kill anybody. It's like, well, you've not actually done anything to change like anything that's going to work here.
But do you know what I mean? Like, what is the breakthrough? Because I mean, for me, I've said this to you before, but for me, the thing about like the thing that really drew me into Nostr was payments.
Yeah.
And I know this is like completely ancillary to everything we're talking about now, but it just occurred to me that if I can just send someone money in the most permissionless way possible, and also receive it, but I think it was actually just the sending of sats to people without their permission. That was the big unlock for me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I need to look into this and spend some more time. And
yes,
and I've been
like a big address book that you can
exactly. Yes, the big Rolodex is there. And then obviously with Optikon, I've been like trying to work with Nostr identities a little bit more and figure out how this all works. And so it's been quite practical. It's been a good like project to have, but I don't think I ever would have gotten to that point unless I'd been sucked into it via the kind of the payment side. And I suspect it's going to be different things for different people, but like, when you start talking about relays a lot, I'm just like, I'm not really like across how they all work. I understand like the point of them, but I don't really like. I kind of just glaze over when people start talking about this stuff.
I mean, the point of the relay is really just that it's like saying I described this at Cheat Code. I was on stage with Preston Pish, friend of the pod. We were talking about Nostr stuff. I wonder if Preston would come on the pod. That would be a good episode.
That would be a good episode. Preston, if you're listening, clearly you must be.
Preston, friend of the pod. Like, just reach out. Send me a message.
Yeah.
So we were discussing about this, and like I had to give like what is Nostr? I said, look, Nostr is an easy way to think about this is that like we had the first internet, like Web 1, and Web 1 was just like, you write a static website, you put stuff there. And then we realized that we could add servers in here. And then if we use the server to generate the pages, we could have these rich interactive apps. And the problem with that was that, Mark Zuckerberg ran a massive server under his bed, and he just put like 10 billion people's data, not 10 billion, but 2 billion people's data on a server under his bed, and went, mine, it's mine. And like, that wasn't a great model. It worked, and you could do it, but you're like, that's not good. And the reason we did that is because the server is the thing that's intelligent, and the client, or like the app on your phone, is the thing that's dumb. It just takes whatever the server gives it. But it means that whoever owns that server is like very, very important, and like they're in charge of everything that everybody sees. So Mark really, that's why he keeps it under his bed. And then Nostr is the reverse of that. Whereas the server now goes under your bed. So like you're in your family, like you've got your stuff, it's under your bed, it's all good. And then like Mark Zuckerberg, his server doesn't exist. Everyone's got a server under their bed. They all talk to each other. They gossip all the data around. And then you just keep whatever's appropriate for your server under your bed, and it's there, and you can look stuff up for all the people that you follow. But the difference there is that now you've got the server becomes dumb, and the client becomes the thing that's clever. And so your phone, as the client, knows that it can talk to one or more of these different relays under your bed. Like all they do is they accept messages and send messages. And that's reasonably simple. And then you get them down, and then you process them locally inside the client. And that's the difference. And But that unlocks, it just changes the whole power dynamic of everything. So the reason that Nostr is good for decentralization is not because everybody can control their own thing or do all this sort of stuff. It's like decentralization is always about a power balance between like the individual and somebody else. And then what steps and what controls people have in place around you that would stop you achieving something. So Nostr, because it takes all that power that used to be under Mark Zuckerberg's bed and then moves it back towards the individual, it means that you can do the whole thing yourself, and that's great for decentralization. But it also means that a market of 10,000 other people could do it on your behalf, which is also great for decentralization, because most people won't do these things on their own because it is hard. And, you know, like we've got stuff to do. We've got places to be, people to see.
That's it.
Coffee to drink.
That's it. All the important stuff.
So it's like, really the relay thing is just like, it's servers, but the servers are dumb. And then you go, right, that's how the data moves around and where it lives. And some of those relays could just save data forever. Some of them might just pass, like I run a couple for just ephemeral relays. These are good for things like logging into wallets, like the Nostr Wallet Connect stuff, the thing we talked about, super-based.
Yep.
Ooh. Bookmarking. That's all ephemeral stuff. There are events that they come and they go, and it doesn't matter if you keep them. Like, it's just communication stuff. So like that's quite easy. You don't need to keep anything. It's quite lightweight. As long as you've got bandwidth, you can run that. If you're going to archive stuff, it could be terabytes and terabytes of data. Well, you're not going to keep all the world's data. That doesn't make any sense. So then it becomes scattergunned into different silos, which is fine. That's just how the thing works. But should you ever need that data, you could always ask for it and get it sent to where you need to do. And you would still know that it is correct data because it was signed at the source by the client. But like all the security theater that exists in the world, like it kind of pisses me off a little bit when people will, I'm on a hobby horse now. Let's go.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah.
Let's fucking go. It's like, oh, you know, it's got to be like this big company. We've got to put all the stuff over here, and they know security. And it's like, no. It's like if we actually care about data integrity and like whether something was true and whether we want to keep stuff private, then the way that we do that is that we have some level of key management as close to the user as you can possibly do, because then I can verify where the thing came from because I have cryptography, or I can encrypt the thing to its source because I have cryptography, or I can multi-sig a thing, or I can revoke things. Like it's just, you need, the cryptography is the secret here. We know how to build these things. Yes, the UI around that is not perfect, but like I built an app over the weekend, right? Because we wanted to onboard people to this workshop, and I was like, I need them to get into 2 apps. If you got one Nostr app, you just say like, click that button, I'll generate a key. If you got 2 apps, it's like, all right, now I've got a different key in each app. So what am I going to do? Have them copy and paste NSECs around? Like, shit, that won't work. That just looks weird. And so I built another app. So now we have 3 apps that they're going to use. But that app logs them into the other 2 apps. And that app can use a password, and it can be a username and password. And I can store a backup of the key in an encrypted manner that I can never see. And I can help them, and then they can use Nostr as though it was like a password key. It's like, these are all simple enough. It just needs to sort of all get built. But like that is way more secure, because now if I do that, instead of just giving them a normal username and password, I've done this extra pain in the ass thing for myself to then manage the key. But if the app, on the other hand, has a key, I can encrypt whatever I want. I can sign messages to the APIs. Like I can seamlessly integrate across multiple different systems. Without any of this, like, oh, you're going to put an application key, you're going to put an API key into this, like, you know, the amount of fucking API keys that we expect people to copy across the internet, and we look at like Nostr and say like, oh, it's not a perfect user experience, and it's like, I'm copying like a GitHub token that expires every 3 fucking months, and it's a pain in the ass, and it's like, oh, come on. Whereas I could just have one key. And if I want information from that system, I just sign the request, and then you know it's me. I can't fake that. So I don't need an application key registered in that system because you already know I'm the same person in both systems, and you know that that was where the request came from because you had signature verification at source. So just give me the fucking data.
Yeah.
And then all the integration becomes easier. So like this sort of just like, it's more that the almost like the philosophy of Nostr and how it builds is more appropriate for building these sort of open integrated systems. Like this is where I think it wins, is that it's just better.
Yeah.
Like, and as I said, I might have to rethink. Fucking, you gotta hate it when Gigi wins. Like, he could be right. He does seem to think about these things.
Yeah.
I'll give him
a few steps ahead.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, I know, but
yeah, that's all right. It's the original thing that set us off on this path as well is like, how do you get people thinking about this? And it occurred to me, we're having a conversation with Chris, friend of the pod, prior to kicking off today, about how sometimes
these friends of the pod should watch.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
put the numbers. Come on, friends of the pod.
For their business, like a lot of the reason why people will come to them as well is because they need someone to blame. And I do think there's a similar paradigm. There's a similar decision-making animus here as well. It's like, we'll go to those big security shops because we just want something to blame when inevitably this stuff goes wrong. There is a better way to do this, but that almost doesn't feature in the decision-making at all. It's just like, there's an insurance policy that they're buying.
Maybe. I mean, I do think that if people understood this a lot more...
Yeah, of course.
I think they would go like, oh no, I would prefer the version where I can't lose the stuff because even if I lost all of my data, it kind of doesn't exist in an unencrypted form anyway. So, yeah, that sounds better. So I can't lose my data is better than like, oh, hopefully we won't lose your data.
Yeah,
these are two different things.
I think in that instance, though, it's the companies that are actually going and
AWS
doing this
won't
work
sell
on
you
behalf.
that, if you know what I mean. They're not incentivized to.
Yeah, but the average business owner is just not thinking about it at all.
No,
they're just deferring that judgment to a specialist. And I think, to your point, it's like the specialist should know this.
Yeah.
It should be part of the toolkit for them. And then they should be the ones who are going in and setting this stuff up. But it just feels like there's a web of vested interests.
But also most specialists aren't specialists, right? Like, so this came up earlier as well. Like, it's like the people shitting on vibe coding. As though they're actually there's not that many really good coders in the world. Like most people that work in software development just kind of brute force stuff by looking at Stack Overflow and trying stuff out, seeing what works and doesn't, running a bunch of tests, debugging as they go. Coding isn't about necessarily writing code. That was never the hard bit of coding. And you see this with good senior software developers where they'll say oh no, it's not about the code, it's about actually thinking through the algorithm or thinking through the process for how I manage this or the implications of the particular choice that I take. It was never about the code. So the fact that the machine writes the code way quicker doesn't invalidate the system because it should be about the planning of how you achieve the outcome, not write the code. But I don't know. It's just one of these areas where you realize that oh yeah, you're just a person who's found a niche of moving code from Stack Overflow into this inside company's repo. It's never looked at by another person. So you might say oh yeah, I can't code as well as I can, but how would you even know? You probably write purely mid code at best. There's a good chance you write below mid code because that's just how.
But even if that's not the case, to be devil's advocate on it to a degree, because I agree with you, but to be devil's advocate a little bit, I think a lot of people are still stuck in this expectation loop of, can I just one-shot an entire app? Even I've seen developers posting about this on X, and they'll be like, well, the code is just slop, and it's well, yeah, it's slop because you basically gave it this open-ended task to build an entire platform from one prompt. Why didn't you just work the way you normally work? Why didn't you apply the methodology that you would normally apply when building that platform? Instead of trying to do it in 10 minutes, why wouldn't you try to do it over the course of a week or 2 weeks and do it methodically?
Would take a year. Why not spend 10 minutes?
Well, that's it.
Why only spend 30 seconds?
It's you have this completely unrealistic expectation of what the model is meant to do. It's meant to figure out all of this stuff and spit out a one-shot for you, which is just that's idiotic. Even the world's best programmers are not going to do that. They're going to work methodically through a system, through a process. And it's why don't you apply the way you normally work, but just use the tool for code generation. Like, this just seems logical to me. And then maybe the code that you're seeing isn't slop, you know. So I do wonder to what degree it is just like performative as well. And it's like, well, my vested interest is preservation of my career and the value that I've built up. And so I'm just going to demonstrate that the code is just utter rubbish.
I mean, I think some of it is just that it's the sort of thing that people... I always feel like everything on Twitter is a lie to a certain extent.
It's rage bait.
And so it is one of those things where you just sort of say, like, oh, this is the sort of thing I need to say to make it look like... So it has to either be one shot is amazing or one shot is rubbish. Because they're the two poles of the thing. Like, and there's no nuance for like, oh, actually, this thing would have taken me 12 months. And so if I can do this in a month, that's amazing. That is still better than 10x. So the analogy just popped into my head. Who's the actor that played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the Star Wars?
Alec Guinness.
Ewan
McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. Ewan is McGregor, right? Okay. I was getting confused with Conor McGregor. I was like, it doesn't sound right. But Ewan McGregor. It's him.
Yes.
So, you know, he did that series with Charlie Borman. Is that the person?
Like
they did
motorcycle.
The long way round and the long way down. It's that. Yeah. It's like saying that, like, look, I'm going to go from the tip of Scotland to, well, no, let's say that. So I'm going to go from like London to Kent.
Yeah.
So London is in the south of the UK. Kent is on the coast on the east. And you say to the computer, like, right, I need you to go from London to Kent. That's your one shot. And then what it does is it starts going east.
Yes.
Not east, west, sorry.
Yeah.
It goes west. And it goes out and it goes to Bristol and it's like, all right, well, I'm kind of out of land here, so I'm going to start swimming. And it swims out to Ireland and you go over there and then you go, right, this isn't there, so I'll keep going. And it goes over to the US. It goes all the way through the US. It comes all the way back round, back through Asia. Like, it goes all the way back through Europe and then eventually it gets to Kent and it's like, got here. And you're like, what the fuck is this slop? And you said, look, just get to Kent. I got to Kent.
Yes, exactly.
And you said, no, I meant like go, all right, go. What you could have done instead is say, right, I need you to go to Kent, right? The first thing we're going to do is we're just going to go over to Shoreditch, right? And then, right, okay, now we're in Shoreditch, we're going to get out onto the A12, and we're going to go up onto the fucking M25, and then we're going to take a right, and you're like, all right, it's like, okay, and you're going to get there much easier, much better, and much more sensible way. Yeah. Because you gave it fucking directions. Yeah. Like, it's like, don't just say, get from London to Kent. Yeah. Because you're going to go via the US. There's like don't be surprised. And it might be in the US and go, you know what, I like it here. I found a place called Kent. Yes. You're like, I bet there is a place called Kent.
Probably, yeah.
And you'll be there going, you fucking Kent. Like, what are we doing here? This is not the Kent that I meant.
I was thinking, I wonder how the captions are going to pick this up like partway through.
It's almost like the perfect analogy, right? It's about route finding. Like, and you'll end up in the wrong place in the wrong city because you didn't specify how you were going to get there. Yeah. You need to do these things by the nose, and they are amazing, and you will go 10 to 100 times faster.
It's like anything, right? Sometimes the user needs to take responsibility. Yeah. And like we're very quick to just like abdicate all of that to the tool and just be like, well, clearly the tool is shit. Yes. It's like, well, was it, or was it the way you're using the tool?
Oh, the button was the wrong colour, so I just told it to go to Kent.
Yeah.
Let's call it a Kent. To piss off.
Yeah. No, it is a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah. Right, and that's the way to use these things, right? That's what it's about. You have to think about the thing. The difference is that you didn't used to be able to do this. Yeah. You had to filter it through a person that knew where to go and get the code examples and then brute force them through a development system. But you kind of don't have to anymore. Yeah. But you still have to think about this.
Yeah, exactly.
But they made you think about this beforehand anyway. That's what software development methodologies are all about. How do you get the user to fucking articulate something that you can build? The user still needs to articulate it. It's just better to get it done in a day and then check if it was okay as opposed to spend 6 months over it.
Yeah, but there's also like a vested interest in taking 6 months. This is like classic, consulting playbook. It's like
that's why they won't change it.
That's it.
That's why somebody with that business model can't make that step.
Yeah. It's very hard to like justify the value of your work when it takes like 10 minutes.
And so what would you do? You'd shit on it online.
Of course you would. That's it.
You have a hot take because you don't use the tools, because you can't use the tools, because they do things wrong. Or you use the tools and you feel guilty about it. Yeah. Because you're like, actually, this does work. I am getting way more done. I'm still charging you for 6 months of work here. That's immoral. So you can't do that either.
Exactly.
Well, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
Like, this, like, so we're fucked.
Yeah.
We should probably just be super immoral and make tons of money, but it's just like I keep not doing
The
that.
thoughts do occur to me sometimes, yeah.
Oh well.
Bury them. I'm like, no.
If only I was more immoral, this table would be grander.
Do you know, just to go off in a completely different direction, I had this thought earlier when you were talking about like agent orchestration. And you know, something like a trend I've seen. This is after me saying like I don't pay attention to any new tools, but this isn't a new tool. I've been seeing more and more people coming up with like computer game interfaces to manage agents.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought, do you know what? Yeah, there's a whole generation of people, probably my generation really, that like grew up with like strategy games and RTS, like a lot of resource allocation type games. And it's like, there is actually something quite native about that interface to then have like a bunch of agents that you can give instructions to and start building in the background. And so, I don't know. I thought that was like quite novel.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if it's going to be like something that like takes hold as an interface for people to use, but I can see why some people would find that interesting. It's kind of like, what was that game? It was like Factorio or something. Can't quite remember, but it's like, a lot of like.
But you can have a dumpling town type.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just wander around and chat to people and see what their work they're doing.
Correct. In fact, the interface I saw, the first one that I saw was very much like that. And then I saw another one that was like, maybe it was 3JS or something with like actual...
I've got some big news for Dumpling Town.
Yeah, it's going to be an agent management system now. Sorry, kids.
Yeah. It's running a business.
But it was...
How do you run your business? Right, well, we've got a shop in Dumpling Town.
The reason I mention it is because like those guys are programmers. You know what I mean? So it's like you do have like a bunch of programmers who are just like completely invested in this. And they're like, do you know what? Like I'm all in here and I'm just creating like a bunch of different interfaces for me to use the tools in ways that work for me. And they're writing all the code.
Yeah,
and then
good
there's
programmers are getting rid of that.
Exactly, yeah. But there's another group who are very much like, you know, old school that don't want to adapt to this and they're shitting on it. So it's like, well, both can't be true, guys.
I mean, I think you have like two forms of good programmers, right? You have the really good programmers that really delight in the crafting of the good code. And we're still going to want all of the libraries and various things. So I think that becomes more valuable. Yeah. But it was always a rare skill anyway. Most people aren't that. Like that is like a 1% of 1%. Fine. Yeah. Like don't try and replace your entire job like that. Use the tools to then go and code the examples of using your libraries and things like that. That's a good space for those guys. And then you've got like the good programmers that were actually just really good with people and understanding things and thinking through problems. Yeah. And they're going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's
it's going to be like, all right, I don't even have to write the code anymore. Fantastic. And they'll come up with all these cool, innovative ways. And then there's a bunch of people that really were just like, in the same way that in any company, there's a job there. Someone's job is just taking stuff out of this spreadsheet and putting it in this spreadsheet. That's not like, you know, maybe they have like 10 different spreadsheets that they deal with, but this is reasonably common still in this day and age. Like in the same way that should go away. Probably just taking stuff out of Stack Overflow and putting it into GitHub probably shouldn't be a job.
Yes.
It's glorified copy and pasting with some brute forcing along the way. That can be automated, but that is probably about 90 to 95% of programming all the time.
Yeah.
It's the thing that was always the valuable skill was the translation of the problem into the thing.
Maybe the other thing to explore here as well is...
I don't want to move on from the game interface though.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you saw I was off thinking.
You're thinking about it?
Yeah, well, because my constraint that I was applying to Wingman specifically, but I try and apply, is just like, I also want this all to just work from my phone.
Yes.
So, like, it's like, the problem is that if I make a system where all the robots do all the work, and I've just got this big array of buttons that moves it, but now I have to sit at a desk. I'm like, what the fuck have I just done to myself? It's like I wired myself into the middle of this machine where I can't move. Yeah. I'm like, that's not very human. So I'm like, well, I need to be able to just check in on this every now and again from wherever I am, which means that I'm not going to have a laptop, and I need to assume that that's not the case, and it should be phone native. The problem with that is you've only got this like tiny, like what would that be, like a, I don't know, 4-inch space across or something, like you know, there's not much screen to do stuff with, and the button's going to be so small to tap in, and like, so how do you like think through the interface? But games are broad. Like if you introduce like a world, now I've got like a space, like I can wander around my interface sort of thing, and I could see people doing stuff just like over here. And like, I don't know.
Especially
There's something about it. I was like, yeah, I can start to like, something's triggering. I need to think about this.
If you it's almost like having like a digital layout for your office. Like there are going to be a bunch of like pre-constructed workflows that exist, and you're just there like setting off various agents at different times and then getting feedback. And you don't need to necessarily be like sat there with a terminal at that point. You know, I think that would be quite interesting.
I mean, we certainly don't want people sitting.
Well, obviously,
again. That's like,
yeah.
It is interesting that the terminal has suddenly come back into vogue.
But you know what I mean, like because these agents don't need to necessarily be running. It depends on what it is, but it doesn't need to be running 24/7. You know, and so like I'll share the link to the one that I saw, but it's like these kind of Roblox type characters, and they walk around on the screen, and like when they're resting, it will show them like, you know, having a little nap, and it's like the Z's from like having a little sleep, and then they'll be like, you know, they'll be hammering iron when they're doing work, and it's like cool little visualizations, but that's linked to a particular workflow, and then you can get output or feedback on what it's doing and how it's performing, and so it like becomes a diagnostic, but it's a bit more fun, and it's still a game environment. And that would be quite addictive as well. And I do think for like certainly like our generation, I think grew up on those kind of games. And
Theme Park and Sims.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I kind of was like, oh, this is like a really interesting way of visualizing agents, and you could do it inside of a business, which is what they were doing. And that would just be a lot more fun. It'd be a lot of fun for like, you know, 1, 2, 3 man bands with small businesses. That would kind of work really well.
I've definitely like seen a few of these and like gone, I wouldn't want to use that. But there's something about the way you described it that just, I was like, you know what? Like maybe it actually just provides me with what I like. There's only so much stuff you can do on like a website type interface on a phone that makes it kind of awkward. I was like, maybe that is like, just rethink it from a different angle.
Exactly.
Like add spatial dynamics to it. It's like if you ever done like VR type stuff for like a big meeting, like so it's like 200 people in a meeting or 100 people in a meeting. If you do it in a VR space, you suddenly get like if 200 people on a Zoom, nobody can talk to each other. Like nobody talks. Everybody just shuts down because only one person can talk. If you do it in a VR space, because you've got the spatial audio, everybody just like naturally splits up and breaks out into little areas, and it actually works remarkably well. Like the actual like getting there of just like trying to go into a space, like the putting on of the headset and like you remove yourself from the world. That's kind of weird, and it's just too bad a user experience in many ways, I think. But then you go, well, but I could just. The thing that is useful here is the spatial audio for big meetings. So like Zoom should have spatial audio. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of mad that they haven't done this. Where you go, right, okay, well if there's 50 people, you just hit this button and everybody can go into spaces, but we visualize it.
Yes.
So like with InPub when Paul just put that together at Sovereign Engineering drink. You could have an ongoing joke, otherwise, you know, there's no reward for the friends of the pod.
That's true.
Shout out to Deadman, friend of the pod, who we didn't talk about very much for too long, but he's going to actually come on back on next week. Next week, so that'd be cool. And he's now in the marginal gains. He took us up on the marginal gains
Friends of the Pod offer.
So he's in the Friends of the Pod channel. We should send that out to all the old guests.
We should.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Reach out in the comments.
Where was it? Yeah, but he was like, software engineering stuff. So. Yeah, InPub. So you end up with like your Nostr like avatar just gets put on a pair of little ostrich legs.
Oh yeah.
And it's a funny little animation. You just wander around this pub, and if you go into like the main lounge room or like this other meeting room off the side, then you just hear different audio streams. And you just like that works so nicely. Like this is the sort of thing that all of us like sitting and having a Zoom meeting up like while you're doing work would be weird.
Yes. Having
like this, like just in the corner of the thing where you could just look over and see if someone's in the social space means that they're, you know, as if you've gone for coffee, you're like, yeah, I'm kind of happy to chat if anyone's free. Yeah. And it would just be, you can imagine hanging out there all of a sudden. And you're like, yeah, there's different ways of achieving this where we could take something like spatial audio that works so well in VR and move it into a flat space that is just like way easier and way more approachable than sticking on a massive headset. I like spatial audio. I think it's good.
Agreed. Yeah. I think the interesting thing is to just come at these things from completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And we were having this conversation before the pod with Chris, friend of the pod, that, like sometimes like AI in some of these like business use cases, it's treated like a digital transformation project where it's like, what we've got is a new tool and we're going to embed that into a pre-existing process. And I think like part of the challenge with that is you've already got a lot of native complexity baked into that process already.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got this opportunity now to go, what's the best way to get the outcome? Yeah. And almost to start from scratch, like from first principles, because you've got so much leverage all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because your process is probably a bit crap and the software you're using is probably inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But if I said to you, like, well, why don't you just rebuild it? You'd be like, no, I spent like 9 months. But you've got this massive sunk cost fallacy of that process and those systems. But I can't even consider that. And you're like, no, it'd take like 2 weeks and it would be running exactly how you want. And then, you might need to spend more time tuning it and getting out the bugs and fixing errors. But you do that anyway, things still go wrong, right? And they're like, yeah, things go wrong. You're like, well, why not just make it perfect and exactly what you want, as opposed to this like weird compromise space? But then they go, no, I don't. It's almost like there's a lack of belief.
Yes,
that's what you could do it.
Oh, there's that, and I think there's almost like the lack of having dependency is almost too scary to contemplate. It's like we've always got dependency on someone else, and that's good. I've got someone to call, and something breaks, like that's good. But if you remove all the dependencies, all of a sudden it's like it's on you. You own this now. And I wonder if like that's like just human psychology that's a little bit difficult to bypass. But yeah, that was the thing about the game. Like that interface was just approaching agent management from a completely different perspective that I hadn't considered. And I was like, oh, that's cool. As I said, like I've seen so many of these like ADE type like setups now, and I'm just like, they're all like minor variations on the same thing. And then all of a sudden I saw a game and it triggered something like the child inside of me, like growing up with these kinds of game worlds. I was like, this is cool. I could explore this. This would be fun. In the same way, I think you just need to approach this stuff from first principles, knowing that you've now got all of this leverage. That's the obstacle. The other thing to like link all this stuff together was when we were talking yesterday with Joel, also a friend of the pod, and he asked us like a question about like how different is this process of building if you're building for somebody else as opposed to building for yourself. And I think like a lot of the time we're talking about building for ourselves rather than trying to build something production ready to go and ship to hundreds, thousands of users around the world. And like, to what degree is it different? And I thought that was a good question, because obviously it's going to be different. Like intuitively, it's going to be different. But you can just bypass a lot of the considerations when you're building for yourself.
I think there's something that's worth saying here as well, which is similar to what I was saying about like, most developers aren't the best developers. They're pretty mid-curve developers for the most part. They have to be. Like, it's just how probability, like stats works, right? Most software is not production-ready software. Like, it's not like most of the things that you use aren't. They are a facade of something that is hopefully production-ready. I mean, that's why people build on stuff like WordPress or whatever. Is that like, all right, well, they've taken care of like this bit of this thing so that I can deploy it a bit easier and I don't need to worry about it as much. But a lot of software is not production quality. As I say, most of it inherently, because it doesn't follow those same sort of design principles we talk about with Nostr, is insecure in the sense that the stuff is insecure where it is. It's just not insecure in your house or in your business. It's like someone's already nicked it, and you're just hoping that it's secure with them as opposed to anything else. But that's why we have these massive data links, is that we put, you put all the data in one place, and then you just sort of hope that nothing happens. And then like the legislation in response to stuff is always like, well, let's just say in stronger terms that we hope nothing happens, as opposed to actually fixing the root cause and making so it can't happen. We go, but it's really bad if you let this happen. And it's like, it's kind of inevitable that it happens. So most software isn't production quality. Certainly inside a business we talked about this a few times, was a lot of the stuff that will run your business is probably just in spreadsheets. And often it's there because the system that you went and bought and you spend tons of money on doesn't do everything that you need it to. So the source of everything that matters is actually next to it in a spreadsheet or in a Google sheet or in a database that you've cooked up or in a bunch of documents. That's why we have so many of these flexible tools that you can put stuff into. So the idea that it somehow gets worse because you put it into a database that you talk to, you know, maybe let's just say that Claude Code is like a mid-tier developer. It's probably a bit better than mid-tier because it can spend time on stuff because it has almost infinite time compared to a human. But it's like, it's not, you're not making it less secure than just having it like YOLO'd onto your own like laptop that you use for whatever fucking shit outside of work. Like, if you want to make it really secure, there's ways to do that as well. But if you bake that in from the bottom, then you almost can't be insecure, which is also a nice way of doing it. But that philosophy, I think, is really powerful. Of just, you know, build it secure from the ground up.
Yes.
Don't assume that it's secure because you just outsource the whole thing to this platform that is supposed to be secure, but you built it in an insecure way. Just build it in.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I have no fucking idea what this podcast is going to be called.
No, neither. We haven't had the usual shout out to Claude as well to just note down the title of the episode.
Yeah, Claude, just note down the title of the episode, and then that'll be useful for us because we don't know what it is.
We talked about a few different things. Yes, yeah, that is interesting. Do we want to talk about knowledge management at all? Do you want to touch on it?
Oh, we said beforehand we were going to do that.
Yeah.
So I reckon we save that.
You reckon we save it? Yeah.
So I reckon we'll be in a much more interesting space with that in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to do. So next week, yeah, why not? We're coming towards the end of the episode, I think.
Yeah.
So next week we'll do Dead Man. Well, apparently he's rewritten his process for how he works with AI, so we're going to catch up with him.
Yep.
Find out. Hopefully he's built his K-pop Demon Hunters meets Pokemon game.
Excellent.
Over the course of Christmas. I don't know if he has, but
Okay.
he said he was going to. So if he's got that, then I might be able to make use of that with the kids.
Very good.
Yeah. And we'll go from there.
Excellent. Well, we've
All
got
right.
a game plan.
Well, I guess that's the good stuff.